So thank you again for joining us. My name is Lilian Krug. I am the scientific coordinator of POGO, the Partnership for Observation of the Global Ocean. And we are here today with Dr. Edem Mahu to talk about one of our precious projects recently completed. But before, allow me to introduce the origin of this webinar series. So the NANO webinar series is part of our alumni network, the NF POGO Alumni Network for the Ocean, which is composed by former present scholars of NF POGO training programs in ocean observations. The objective of the network is to maximize the benefits and extend opportunities beyond the trainings. So we do that through networking. When we have meetings of scholars, we have a biannual newsletter with contributions from members on their current research activities, outreach activities, and also introducing the new members of the network. And POGO often give opportunities to NANO members to join POGO at high-level events such as the UNFCCC COP events or GeoBlue Planet Symposium and other high-level meetings. The NANO network also constitutes with joint research projects. Until 2017, we had 5 different regional regional projects aiming at observation of coastal properties and anthropic impacts. And since 2017, these regional projects merged into a global project called NANO-DOAP, the global study of deoxygenation, ocean acidification, and productivity at selected sites. And in addition, NANO coordinates outreach and citizen science projects as well. The NANO-DOAP main objective is to constitute a network of coastal monitoring stations led by our members in their countries of origin. So currently, NANO-DOAP has 33 stations in 18 countries. Many of the representatives are here today, and I'm happy to see it. The project, besides collecting essential ocean variables on these coastal monitoring stations, we also promote capacity development activities on our stations and outreach and citizen activities also led by the representatives at NANO-DOAP. So this webinar is another venue of promoting outreach from NANO-DOAP. And it's on its 23rd, I believe it's the 23rd issue of the webinar series. And today we are proud to have Dr. Edem Mahu. She's the representative of NANO-DOAP in Ghana, but she's much more than that. She's a senior lecturer of marine biogeochemistry at the University of Ghana. And she works with past climate reconstruction, nutrient dynamics, coastal upwelling, pollution, marine ocean acidification, and some various other subjects. She is a past trustee of POGO, an NF POGO alumni, and I'm a NANO member. And she is spearhead marine science in West Africa, leading several global efforts to bridge gaps in ocean science capacity, which includes her role as a co-chair of the Ocean Decade Vision 2030 process for Challenge 9 on capacity development, and a steering group member of the newly established Ocean Decade Capacity Development Facility. She received the 22 American Geophysical Union Africa Award for Research Excellence in Ocean Science and is a National Geographic Explorer, an affiliate of the Africa Academy of Science, and an African Initiative for Scientific Excellence Fellow. Edem is a dear friend, and she was also the co-PI of the Collect project, which she will introduce much better than I, but involved 8 POGO members in 7 African countries and Europe and Asia. Over 10 schools in those countries and over 250 students from secondary schools in these countries. So it was a great success recently completed, and Edem will present the results of the project and also ideas on how you can use the protocols of collect to perform citizen science activities involved plastic pollution in your own countries. So Eden will present all over the next 30 minutes, and then we will open for questions. And I also would like to remind you that this meeting is being recorded. So if you're not comfortable with having your voice or face recorded, you can keep your camera and audio off. Thank you so much. Eden, could you please share your screen? We can hear you, you're muted.
Thank you so much, Lika, for the generous introduction, and thank you all for joining the meeting this afternoon. Let me share my screen briefly, then okay, I can continue. Okay. Okay, so good afternoon once again, and thank you very much.
Sorry, Eden, can you put it in presentation mode once again?
Okay, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to present our exciting project, Collect, to the NANO community this afternoon. So I call this presentation Bringing Microplastic Research Closer to Citizens Using the Collect protocol. And this will be the outline of my presentation. So I'll talk briefly on the background on marine pollution, plastic pollution, but focus more on microplastic pollution. Talk briefly about what exactly microplastics are, the sources, some global trends in plastic pollution, environmental and health impacts. Then that will lead us to why we need to collect more data and why the collect protocol comes to fill a very critical gap in ocean data collection on microplastics. So what are microplastics? The European Chemical Agency defines microplastics as plastics that are less than 5 millimeter in size, but greater than 1 nanometer. So you can have them, the largest being around 5 millimeters, which you can see sometimes with your naked eye. But once it starts going down up to the nanometer range, you are not able to see these plastics. You only can see them using microscopes. Microplastics are often categorized into two. We have the primary microplastics and we have the secondary microplastics. So the primary microplastics, as the name depicts, are those that are from, they are directly manufactured from industry. So you have things like pellets, which are used in the production of other bigger plastics, or in our cosmetic and personal care products, you find these tiny microbeads, which are all categorized as primary microplastics. Then we have the secondary ones, which are the bigger plastics that we are visible to the eye, that we see on the beaches. And these plastics are those ones that have been broken down into smaller ones. So then they become secondary. They are from other plastics. So in terms of the global trends in plastic pollution, this is a very popular diagram that you find on the internet. When you look at from 1950 up to where we currently are, 2024, you can see that there's been a steady surge in the production of plastic. And this surge in the production of plastic aligns also with the accumulation of plastic waste. So you realize that the more plastics we are using, we are producing, the more wastes we are generating from these plastics. And future predictions show that the trend is going to continue. So by 2050, we are looking at moving from about 0 metric ton in 1950, which is just around the Industrial Revolution, up to about 1,000 plus metric ton in 2050. So that is how serious the plastic problem is. And when you walk along the beaches, these days I walk on the beaches in Ghana and all I see is plastics in our water bodies. We go to other parts of the world, the problem is there. So it's a global problem. In fact, we have a place in the ocean that we call the big plastic patch, or the Pacific plastic patch, where most of the plastics that we are discharging into the ocean are actually accumulating. And when you go there, it's like land. You don't see the water. All you see is a patch of plastic. You might think that you can even walk on it. That is how serious the plastic problem is. And the microplastic problem, which is something we started realizing just recently, is something that is also becoming more synonymous to the trends that we are seeing in the plastic, the general plastic production and accumulation trend. So you can also see that the microplastic numbers in our surface oceans have also increased steadily from 1950 up to where we are now. So this really tells us that there is a problem. So in terms of the sources and transports of microplastics into aquatic environments, we are looking at various sources. So we can talk about the primary sources, but also from our daily use of plastic materials. Talking about the bottles, which have become very, very dominant. These days you go to parties and you find a lot of plastic waste that is generated from these parties, from PET bottles, from fabric. So our laundry, one major problem that we are also realizing, or we've recognized recently, is the contribution of plastic from clothing, from fabric. And in third world countries where we have a lot of used clothing being exported or imported into these countries, you realize that there is a lot of fibers and microplastics that are being shed into the ocean as a result of these clothings. Then also the cars that we are using, we're having a lot of cars on our roads, which are all shedding the wheels, the tires of these cars are also shedding plastics into our water bodies. Then we also have the personal care products. So ultimately, all these plastics are just moving from land-based sources into the ocean. In terms of the fate and also the impact of these plastics, ultimately these plastics that we are introducing into the environment are going into our water bodies, where they get broken down, they are taken up by fish, they are taken up by other organisms, they are disrupting several ecosystem processes. And this is data that I picked from a very recent publication, and you can see how much microplastics are accumulating. Even in bacteria, they are finding microplastics. So it's a big problem. But it doesn't end just in the aquatic environments. Anything that we put in the ocean will come back to us humans as part of natural laws, because the whole planet is connected. We are connected to the ocean through the food chain we eat. And so once these fishes are taking up these plastics, we at the higher end of the food chain are also receiving the plastics. And indeed, the research these days have shown some disturbing findings as far as microplastic research is concerned. Microplastics have been discovered in the nervous system of humans. It's been found in kidneys. It's been found in digestive and excretor systems. It's been found in even baby placenta, in the skin, in the heart. I mean, it's been found in areas that you don't expect to see these plastics. So indeed, it's not a problem of just the ocean, but it's a problem that is gradually coming back to we humans, and we need to do something about it. So before I zoom into the Collect project, I'll talk briefly about citizen science, why it is very, very important. Indeed, scientists, we have a handful of scientists who are trying to research all the problems that we have in the world. But the numbers are not enough. We need more people to support with the science, but also when it comes to awareness creation, when it comes to uptake of the research itself, it moves from the desk of the scientists to the people. And this is where citizen science comes to play a very, very big role. So from data collection, where you can engage people to help collect data, to the fact that when we engage citizens, it becomes more cost effective to do the research and to collect the data. And also that opportunity to engage closely with the community, as well as helping to broaden the understanding of scientific research, are all reasons why citizen science plays a very key role as far as environmental conservation is concerned. So with that, I'll introduce us now to the Collect project. I just talked about citizen science, and Collect is an acronym that we coined for the phrase citizen observation of local litter in coastal ecosystems. This is a project that was co-led by myself and my colleague, Dr. Anna Isabel Catarino, who is also joining us this afternoon, together with several partners who are all listed on the screen. And the project was funded by the Partnership for Observation of the Global Ocean through the Richard Lounsbury Foundation, and it was implemented in 8 countries. So what's motivated the Collect project? This is a figure that shows the global global research that has been done in microplastic research globally. And you realize that when you look at this diagram, you realize that there are data gaps. So take, for example, the whole of the Atlantic Ocean closer to the coast of Africa. You realize that we don't have much data on microplastic. You look at other parts of the world on the map, you see that the trends are also there. And why are we seeing this gap? First of all, microplastic research itself, when it started, it was very, very advanced. So you need to have certain equipment and technologies to be able to do the research. And a lot of these countries cannot even afford these equipment and these technology. And so we have highly undersampled regions, and we have limited data in the coastal environments, not too many scientists working on microplastic. And like I said, it's very, very costly. And so the idea of the Collect project is to come out with a protocol that can be adopted by citizens from different parts of the world to help bridge this gap in microplastic data. I'm doing something, please. Please. Behave yourself, please. Okay, so that leads us to the goals of the Collect project. So there were 3 goals that we set for ourselves. The first one, to acquire data on the distribution and abundance of coastal plastic litter in West and North African countries, and then in one Southeast Asian country. Train students in high schools from I'm in a meeting, please. Okay. Train students in high schools on sampling of microplastics, and then to finally measure the impact of the citizen science intervention that we are coming up with through the Collect project on ocean literacy and also well-being of the students. Okay, so what is in the package? I'm sure a lot of people will be interested in using this protocol in their various countries. So what do we have in visual identity and some work materials that we developed for the project? We have the logo and the brand book, so you can see the logo right there, but we have, more importantly, we came up with a protocol, a standard operation protocol or procedure, which is a 2-pager document that is well simplified. And this protocol talks about how we can do microplastic research on beaches, so macro and microplastics on beaches, and the simple tools that of research, and so which you can download. When I finish, I'll share the QR code for the project where you find all our materials there. And then we also have the video version of the protocol, which we usually show to schools before engaging them with the project. And then in terms of data management, we try to make sure that the data that we are collecting is harmonious. And so you can share the data among people. The data can be managed across board easily. So we have this data sheet that we developed for the Collect project. And this is the sheet that we were using in the different countries that we worked in. Then a project also had a social science component. So before we start engaging students or community, we want to learn about how well they are connected to the ocean, what they know about pollution, what they know about plastics and all that. And then after the project, we also assess their well-being and awareness to see if the project has really had any impact on them. So aside collecting data, we are also using the project to develop empathy or help people sort of understand the need to protect and conserve the environment. And for these, we had questionnaires and surveys that are also available. If you want to adopt and use the protocol, you can also use this questionnaire. Okay, so after developing this package, we decided to now go on the field and use the protocol. So here we engaged, like I said, we have about 6 schools that we engaged, 7 in fact, because we have the Asian school that we engaged, and we replicated the protocol throughout, the exact protocol throughout these schools or these countries. And we use the same equipment, which are things that you can buy from the DIY shops or the malls. And we replicated these throughout these different countries. So for our sampling, we collected samples for the wet season and also for the dry season. And within each school, we work with about 10 groups of students. So we have about 6 to 5 people in a groups during the sampling events. And then, like I said, we gave them the questionnaires prior to the activity and also after participating in that activity. So we know that language is a big barrier for scientists. In fact, at the recent Ocean Decade conference, language was highlighted as one of the major barriers that hinder the translation of science or science diplomacy amongst different countries. And so there is the need to break this barrier or remove this barrier. So for the Collect protocol, we developed working the package. We have it in the four different languages, which is English, French, Portuguese, and also Spanish. And as you can see on the screen there, these are some of the activities, photos of some of the activities that we engaged in. You can see the beach itself that people are working on, and then right from the beach, we do our sorting, we do our picking of plastics, and then we bring these items to the lab where we do further classification and quantify the data that we have collected from the beaches. So just for you to see some of the results that we got in terms of the number of items per square meter, you can see that there is a huge variation in the number of items that we sampled across the different beaches. There are different factors that accounted for this because there are different factors operating in these different beaches. But you can see that Benin, for example, recorded very high numbers of items, followed by Nigeria, and then Ghana. Then we have the least being reported by students in Malaysia and Morocco. Then in terms of, we also look at the sediments. So in terms of plastics in sediments, again, you realize that here we don't have all the data. So you see some countries are missing, but you realize that there are quite a significant number of plastics that these students were able to isolate in the sediments as well. So in all, a total of about 2,835 microplastic items were found on approximately 830 meters squared area. Then in terms of the awareness, you realize that there is not that significant difference across the different countries. So most of the students said they were already aware plastic is a big problem, and so it was not surprising difference in the level of awareness among the students when it comes to plastic and other ocean issues. This is one of the findings that really also excited us a lot. So in terms of the impact of the Collect project on ocean literacy and also well-being, we realized that there is 12% increments in happiness, for example. So there is higher well-being. So after students participated in the project, we saw that positive response. And there was 19% nature connectedness. In terms of increase in behaviors that help reduce litter, we saw what? About 12% of students encouraging their families and friends to take necessary actions against plastic pollution. And 11% of these students are actually reporting that they are avoiding plastic bags at the supermarkets. And about 16% will actually now pick the litter when they find them on the beaches. In terms of better understanding of the causes and consequences of marine litter, about 5% also show that the perception of marine litter is bad for tourism, for example. And so for us, this is very, very exciting because indeed the future is our children. If we want to train the next generation of ocean leaders, then we should be targeting our students, our children, and also the community. So for us, seeing this kind of outcome is very, very promising and exciting. Who else has used the collect protocol? So the Coastal Ocean Environment Summer School is one of the popular summer schools that you can talk about when it comes to ocean sciences in Africa or West Africa. And just last year, they adopted the collect protocol and used it in one of the project tracks. So on the field, that's the 2-pager document that they are using, and they were able to use that to collect some data during the summer school. Yes, so on that note, I would like to thank you all for joining, but also more importantly, we have the QR code there. If you are able to scan it, please do so, and that will lead you to all the information that you want to learn about the Collect project and the necessary materials that you need to be able to use the protocol. But also, if you also plan to use the protocol and you want to engage more with us, you can write to either myself or Anna. Our email addresses are there, or you can also write to collect@pogo-ocean.org. And of course, you can also follow our social media handles on Twitter or X now, and also Facebook as well as Instagram. Thank you very much. And once again, if you have any questions and comments, I'm happy to engage with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Eden. I also have included the link for the collect page. I believe that's where the QR code takes the user. I added on the chat as well. So thank you so much for this informative presentation. Some of the results that included in Eden's presentation, although it's saying in press, it's already published, and the links for the publications are also on the website, on the web page. So we are now opening for questions. So if you have a question for Dr. Mahu, please raise your hand, and don't be shy. While people are gathering their courage to ask questions, I have one myself. So if you just answered, sorry, something is appearing here. You just said that if someone wants to use collect protocol and reach out to you. So my question is, if I'm interested in developing an activity here in Portugal with a school, should I? So I can gather the material on the collect webpage and on the publications, and then I share my results with you to go to a public database.
Yes. So in fact, the idea or the reason why we developed the collect protocol, first of all, is to be able to generate data to fill the data gap. But we want this data to also be shareable. We want the data to be accessible to all. And so one thing that I forgot to mention was that Collect has a data management plan as well. And so what we encourage people to do is that when you use the protocol, of course, if you are publishing paper, you should acknowledge the protocol. But also we would love to have the data and put this on Edmonet, which is the main site that we store the data, so that people can access the data as well.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And now more on the the first slide where you talk about the microplastics and the impact in marine and human life. I was wondering, so this is not my background, uh, what would be the reason why fishes have are the ones more prone to accumulate? Is it because of their digestive system or something? Because I would assume that bivalves or some filtering organisms could be more, but in the end, it's actually fish. That's very interesting.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Lika. So this is one of the areas that we have done a lot of work on in our
Mm-hmm.
lab. We look at microplastic in organisms. So you are right. When it comes to who accumulates more, you expect that the bivalves, which are filter feeders, would also be accumulating more of the plastics. Um, that you can see clearly that the what I showed really focused on pelagic or fish organisms that are in the water column. There is not
Mm-hmm.
much highlight
Okay.
on the shellfishes. Recently, just a week ago, we published a paper on microplastic numbers in shellfish across West Africa, where we collected microplastic oyster samples from different 5 countries along the coast of West Africa, and
Mm-hmm.
we found some uh, high numbers in these oysters. But the reason why fish are also accumulating these microplastics is that, you know, fish, they, when they swim in the water, they open their gills. And so as they are moving through the water, anything that is there, they are filtering into their systems. And sometimes the microplastics are very, very tiny. And so they are able to go through the gills, even though the gills also act as filters sometimes. They are able to go through the gills and go into the digestive tract of the fishes. So once you have a lot of these microplastics in the water and fish is trying to feed, is trying to swim, it's going to passively take up or actively take up these microplastics. Sometimes they mistakenly uh, take the microplastics as even food.
Human food. Yeah.
They filter them and then eat them, thinking that it's food.
Okay, thanks. Then we have some questions in the chat. So Dr. Anil Kumar Medikonda, and I apologize in advance if I'm mispronouncing names here. He's asking you, Madam, would you study any role of ocean currents in transport or on distribution of microplastics?
Okay, so if I got the question right, would I study or are there
Yeah,
studies?
or if you know of any other studies on how ocean
Yeah.
currents may impact distribution.
Yes, yes, okay. So as we all know, microplastics are they are inactive. They are they are not organisms. So they are not able to swim on their own. So for you to find plastics in the Pacific, plastics that have maybe signatures from the Gulf of Guinea in the Pacific, it means that ocean currents are playing a role in the transport and circulation of these plastics. And so it is very, very important that when we are doing microplastic research, to understand the distribution and the fate of these microplastics, we also look at the ocean currents and see the role that they are playing in moving these plastics around the world. And that is why it is not one country's problem, because if you think that you are not putting plastics in your waters where you are, it's just like climate change. At the end of the day, the currents will connect the plastics to you. So, which is why we need to have a very more holistic approach to addressing the problem of plastic pollution.
Exactly. I believe that all the big patches of plastics are also on the exact location of the gyres, the center gyres in the main ocean basins. So this is clearly an evidence on that.
Exactly.
Thank you, Anil. And so the next question is from Ogogo Elishin. This person is a PhD student at the University of Lagos in Nigeria, and they are asking how they can participate or join the project. In addition, Aku Ewonangse is asking if other countries of West Africa can become part of the project in the near future.
Okay, thank you very much. So Collect as a project itself, we concluded it in 2023, but the legacy of the project is very long lasting. We envisage a long-term impact of the project. And that is why I think at a seminar or a webinar like this, we take the opportunity to let people know that all the materials, the protocols that we developed for the project are open access. So you can use it in your country to collect data. All you need to do is to let us know that you are using the protocol, and then if there is any extra support that we can give you in terms of advice and all that, we will come in to offer those advice. And like I also said, we are also interested in the data. So if you collect the data, you just need to share with us and acknowledge that you used the collect protocol. But as it stands now, we ran out of the funds, and we are just what we can do is to encourage people to use the materials, which is very easy to use. The videos are available; they're on YouTube. It's very easy to use.
Exactly. It's like you have a recipe now, like a cake or
Yeah,
something. So you have the cookie cutter, and you have the everything you need to make your own little collect. And then what
exactly.
we ask in return is that once you perform your own activity in your own country, that you obviously acknowledge the origin of the protocols, and also give us the data, share the data with us, of course, with it's your data, you publish yourself and etc., but you're also sharing the data with us so we can put it on the database and
Yes.
see the long living of the project.
Yes. And
um
we actually have there's an NGO in Ghana called Plastic Punch. We are trying to encourage them. So this is an NGO that reports data on macroplastics to the SDG. I think it's the first that is doing that for the West African region on plastics to SDGs. And so we are trying to encourage them to even start reporting data on the microplastics using the collect protocol. So if you are an NGO, you can also use it when you engage with communities.
exactly. So the next question is by Dr. Satyabrata Sharma from India, who wishes to know more about the analytical procedures or SOPs for microplastics.
Okay, so for the collect protocol, because this is something that we are doing at the citizen science level, we are using high schools. We try to make the analytical protocol very simple. So we go to the beach to collect macro plastics. We use the sieving technique, where we are able to sieve with different sizes of mesh sizes of sieves, and then to analyze for microplastics in sediments. So when we do the sieving, we are collecting like the the macroplastics. Then when we want to analyze microplastics in sediments, we bring those sediments to the lab, and we use density separation, where we prepare a concentration of saline or salt water solution, and then we put the plastics in it, we stir it nicely, and once you leave it, the plastics will float. And so then we collect the floating particles together with the scientists or the students who are working on this. And then we have microscopes that we use in then identifying and counting these plastics that we have collected. But one thing that we also did in addition to the project was that we also tried to do what we call the intercalibration exercise, where we shipped samples to different labs. So the labs that the countries that we're working with, those that are equipped with FTIRs, we try to use FTIR to verify the samples that we are collecting, just to know if they are indeed plastics or not plastics. But that also helps to increase the certainty of the results that are coming from these labs, because we are using standards to do this intercalibration exercises. So briefly, that is the analytical protocol. It's very straightforward. You don't need to be a scientist to be able to actually use it.
So I'm adding on the chat the link for the YouTube video with the protocol. So it's very clear and easy, and you're gonna see that you need very little material and a lot of goodwill to conduct this. So we are almost in time. We have one last question on the chat by Ernest Nomo. I want to know how to join the project. So we, Dr. Mahu just answered this question. The project is completed now, but all the results and all the materials are freely available to anyone who wants to make their own little project. Oh, sorry, Anna. Was it challenging? Okay, I have a question by Dr. Anna Caterino. Was it challenging to have teachers and schools engaged in the project? Would Professor Mahu be able to share some tricks and tips to engage with citizens and local schools?
Yes, so that's Anna, my partner. So that question. I think that it all boils down to the strategy that we used for engaging the schools. So what we did was that we engaged focal points from the different schools, from the different countries that we worked with. So in each of these countries, we had a focal point from universities. So for example, in Nigeria, we had the focal point from the University of Calabar. And so it was the work of the focal point to then get on the ground and select the schools that were interested in participating in the project. Of course, we had a letter from Pogo, a letter that was written from Pogo to the schools. And as far as I am concerned, we didn't have any challenge with getting the schools that were interested in the project. Because in Ghana, I led that project. I only approached one school, and they were very, very interested in engaging in the project. Also because a lot of these schools, some of them don't even have any serious outreach or science projects. And so if you are able to explain the project to them very well, what the school stands to gain and all that, they will buy into it.
So before we close, I have a question. It's actually kind of a follow-up with this one. I was thinking of it since the beginning. I wanted to know from you, Edem, what was the most challenging and the most beneficial aspects of leading a project like Collect, like such a international and big project and meaningful project?
Okay, so I think that I'll talk about the benefits first. Yes. So for me, from where I stand, I'm a strong advocate for capacity um, development, and capacity development cuts across, building skills, but also increasing awareness, getting people connected to their environments, developing communication skills, and all that. They are all part of the capacity building project, coming up with low cost instrumentations that can still give you some data that is comparable and interpretable. So for me, leading a project like Collect, it's really opened my eye to the power of what is sometimes this low cost tools can do as far as bridging the data gap is concerned. In fact, we have published the first part of the project and we are looking at publishing the next part, which is the data. We collected some good data that we would have not collected if we were thinking about just waiting to get, state of the art technology or equipment before we go out on the beaches to collect um, samples. I think that the most challenging aspects would have been the language uh, barrier, because we were dealing, if you come to West Africa, we have French speaking countries, we have English speaking countries, we have Portuguese. And so it will be very challenging to develop a protocol in all these languages. If you look at Collect, we have French translation, we have English translation, we have Spanish translation, and then we have Portuguese translation. I think that is very laudable. That was a big challenge for the project, but we were able to overcome that challenge. And so Collect is not only limited to people who can only speak English, but people for different languages. The protocol has been translated. And so that was a challenge, but I think that we were able to address that language challenge.
Yeah, indeed. And Anna is commenting on the chat that maybe soon the project will also be translated in Arabic. Stay tuned. I just wanted to congratulate you, Eden and Anna, also on such a great project. And this is a great initiative that it was recognized by the UN Ocean Decade for Ocean Sciences, as well as is an endorsed program, an endorsed project. And we would like to thank you so much for your time and excellent presentation. So on your screen, you can see all the emails from Anna, Edem, the project itself. The QR code takes you to the website of the project. There are some links on the chat as well. So thank you, everybody, for your participation here today, and have an excellent weekend. Thank you so much, Eden.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And I think there was one question, I saw it popped up from Erica Dia. She wanted to know
Yeah.
if the protocol can be used in freshwater systems. So
Exactly.
currently, the protocol that we have is tailored to beach microplastic work. But if you take sediments from freshwater systems, you can still use the separation techniques to separate. Of course, those are going to be very, very tiny particles that you might have challenges. You might need to, use microscopes, technical microscopes, to be able to see them. Yeah, so the protocol is more tailored to beach macro and microliter surveys.
Okay. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Erica, for the question. Edem, especially. So this presentation is being recorded, including the questions and answers. And soon we will upload on our YouTube channel. Link is also on the chat. So thank you, everybody, and have a nice weekend.
Thank
Bye.
you all, and enjoy your weekend. Thank you, Anna. Good to see you again.
All right. Thank you.